If you want to understand what's happening in the world today, first you must know where you stand, literally. And as you're going to find out from this post, you have been deliberately misinformed about it. If you don't know where you literally stand, how can you be sure about anything else? And that's one of the main reasons why this lie has been spread. Here are the reasons why the Earth is not a globe and is not spinning. Here are the reasons why the Earth is not a globe and is not spinning. If the Earth were a globe, some people would have to walk upside down. If you would walk upside down, you would certainly feel it. Even if you do a headstand, you feel the blood rush to your head, and most people cannot stay in such a posture for more than a minute. Let alone continuously living by being spun up and down. When this argument is presented to those who believe in the ball earth theory, they reply with a learned line of the controllers. But in space, where is up and down? How do you define up and down? This is supposed to settle the fact that we can stay upside down and not feel it. Do not be deceived by this philosophical explanation designed to confuse and end your line of thought. If you stand on some surface, there is up and down. And if you stood upside down, you would definitely feel it. This leads us to another false claim, that what keeps you from falling off the ball earth is gravity. There is no such thing as gravity. It was never proved, it was invented by a Lucifer-worshipping Freemason Isaac Newton, and nobody could ever explain how it works. It was invented to justify the reason why people do not fall off the globular earth. It's definitely a flawed concept, because it states that gravity somehow manages to keep the oceans curved by its attraction force. But fails to explain why light objects can totally disregard this law and easily lift off from the earth, like butterflies do. The earth doesn't spin. If it would really spin, together with the air around it, it would only spin in one direction. And indeed it's told that the earth rotates from the west towards the east. Although there are more spins introduced to further confuse, together with the introduction of astronomical numbers to overwhelm the human brain. These need not concern us if the basic spin is proved to be wrong. And it's proved to be wrong every hour of our lives, yet most people never see that. If the Earth were to spin close to 1,000 miles per hour in one direction together with its atmosphere, it would be impossible to walk in the opposite to its rotation direction. If we would attempt to do that, we would be instantly crushed by such a brutal force. If the Earth would really rotate at 1,000 miles per hour together with its atmosphere, we wouldn't observe stationary clouds, or clouds moving in a westward direction in a leisurely way. Sun and moon are not distant, but very close to the Earth. Some estimate both the Sun and moon to be less than 4,000 miles away from the Earth, instead of the alleged 91 million miles, for the Sun. It would be impossible to see the Sun the way we see it, with its rays spread out this way, if it were very large and far away from us. This kind of sight would be impossible to witness if the Sun were 91 million miles away. The rays of the Sun that's so far away and with the alleged Sun's radius of almost 865,000 miles, would, reaching the tiny faraway globe of our Earth, appear completely vertical. The excuse of the astronomers with regards to this is that we see rays this way because it's an optical illusion. They explain this by the phrase linear perspective. This cannot be, since linear perspective only applies to horizontal, and not vertical, lines. You can easily see this by looking at a long corridor, where you witness horizontal lines running into each other in the distance, yet vertical lines of walls remaining unaffected by the illusion. So when you hear such excuses, don't take them as truth, but think through them. The truth cannot be hidden, but some people are content with receiving obscure or complicated answers that they assume to be true due to their complexity. The moon is self-luminous. If the moon weren't self-luminous, we wouldn't be able to see the rest of its shape during its waning or waxing phases. The moon is not a dead satellite, and it doesn't borrow its light from the sun. It's self-luminous, like it was told in Genesis of the Old Testament. It seems to be semi-transparent, which would perfectly explain its seeming indentations, and it looks like it has different phases in itself. The fact that it's self-luminous is the reason why during its waxing and waning periods we are still able to see the full outline of its shape, like it's seen in the image above. If it would really borrow its light from the sun, we could never witness such a thing. Also, if the sun were to give its light to cause waxing and waning, the illuminated moon parts could never be as clearly defined as we see them to be. What's more, in order to be able to reflect sun's rays, the moon would have to have a reflective surface, like that of some kind of metal, but it doesn't. And even if it did, it would never be able to reflect as brightly and in such a defined way as it seemingly does. I'm quite sure that everyone listening has witnessed the full outline of the moon during its waxing or waning periods. But how many of us have questioned this? How can we, if we take everything the science tells us as gospel truth? We trust the ever-changing its-mind science theories, and we deny that which we plainly see every day. Therefore, if the moon is a self-luminous disk, it means that the phases of the moon are exactly that, its phases. As you see, it's not only hidden in plain sight, but we also use the words which tell the truth, yet we are so indoctrinated that we never become aware of this. The earth is flat,